I do a $106 million launch. My mom got to see it, which is really cool. She dies 4 weeks later. It's not like, oh, what are people going to think? It's not people. It's probably like 2 people. And if you name it, you're like, oh, it's just James and Betty?
Yeah.
So this is really real. So one, when I was about to sell Gym Launch, it was actually a very hard decision for me. It's super hard.
I think there's context in his own story, which completes the picture.
So whatever people see of my success, I think in a lot of ways what my dad accomplished, the more I think about it, is bigger. Probably the single best financial decision that I ever made was marrying Layla. I mean, mind you, I don't have kids, so that variable wasn't there. But every other variable that probably could have gone, quote, wrong was, actually, ironically, outside of business. Business was fine. But it was just everything else. And
what do you mean by that?
So I would say we were making plenty of money.
Yeah.
But I think I had 9 lawsuits that were open at that. Now, let's say this company A sells 100 year one, they make $1 million. They keep all 100 customers. Okay. But let's say that company keeps the same number of people they're selling new. So 100 new customers come in this year, but they keep their old 100. So now they also have 200 customers and do $2 million. And then year 3, they keep their same 100 and then the 100 from year 2. So now they have 300 total customers because they got 100 new and they have 3 million. So both of these businesses on paper, your entrepreneur friend comes to you and says, hey, I've got a $3 million business and I've got a $3 million business. Which one do you invest in? And he was like, okay, now what do you make on a productive agent per year in gross profit? It was $250,000 a year. Productive agent, gross profit. He's like, so you're only willing to spend $500 to make $250,000? He's like, what would you spend for $250,000? He was like, I mean, I don't know, 50 grand. He was like, yeah. So why don't you make your incentive 25 to start? So he took his incentive from $500 for referral to $25,000. And he took his company from 10 million video of the year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I did this breakdown. And because it was my favorite video, I think I got like 300,000 views. But but what I did was really interesting is that I took wealth in the United States and I had it represent $100. 100% of wealth is $100. If you looked at it, right, and you had a circle for all, 100 people at different percentiles, right, there's like $2 in the bottom 50th%.
Is for them. The bottom 50%. I was doing this show once and I said to the producer who was just off camera, I said, do you think I'm happy?
I use this little analogy that I like, which is, so we have our horn of the unicorn. This is going to be so bad. Here we go. So we've got our, all right, here we go. We'll give it a little hoof, maybe some tail. Here we go. And here we go. And we need to have some sparkle, right? Because it's a unicorn special. Okay, it's got a little donk there. But they're trying to replace themselves with the unicorn, but there are no unicorns. Real. So one, when I was about to sell Gym Launch, it was actually a very hard decision for me. It's super hard. And when I exited, one of the reasons I almost didn't exit was because there was somebody that I knew in my circle, not even like a super close friend, that I realized when I got really clear on whose voice I cared about, I thought that they didn't think that $46 million was enough money. That they wouldn't think it was legit. I'm dead serious. No, it was like, that was my legit. It's like,
it's just funny to hear.
He's not going to think I'm legit. It was only when I was like, am I going to not do this and let him control me? Because that's what it is. They control you. And I think when you say it in those terms, it feels like much heavier. Like I'm letting my mom or my uncle or my brother or the coworker, John, control me. Because that's how much I care about this guy's approval. I have to care about my approval more.
I think there's context in his own story, which completes the picture.
So whatever people see of my success, I think in a lot of ways what my dad accomplished, the more I think about it, is bigger. My dad fled during the Iranian Revolution, right? And then he went to go to France to become a doctor. But he didn't speak French. And so he had to try to go into medical school and take orgo in a language that he didn't understand. And so he failed 2 years in a row. His brother was like, go to Belgium, start fresh, go to a new place. And so he ended up getting all the way through medical school. And then he met my mother in medical school. And then they came back to the US. Now, his medical degree didn't transfer to the US. And so he had to get a US fellowship in order, a residency or whatever. But no one would take a Middle Eastern guy who had a super thick accent, who was fresh out of medical school, and there was all these US-based people here. And so for 2 years, he ran x-ray slides. He finally gets a residency. And then he decides when he comes back to Baltimore, which is where I'm from, that he's going to, instead of join the practice that my mother had with her father, he was going to go out on his own, which is pretty ballsy, right? He didn't have a foreigner, didn't have anything. And so he asked to find out how much a construction costs for building your own surgery center. And it was like $250,000 then. So it was a lot of money. He didn't have that. And so he looked at all the legal requirements for what it entails to be a surgery center. And then he went to Home Depot and built a surgery center that met all the specs and got it inspected so that he could have his own surgery center in his practice. Then, right as his practice is starting to work, my parents got divorced. They changed the locks on the door because he had like a separate thing. His patients show up and they didn't know where to go. It was an ugly divorce. And so then he's starting his own. And this is when he was talking to me then. So fast forward now. He's like, I've been in practice for, 20, 30 years, whatever. He's like, those years, I didn't even think about them. I think I was like, I feel like I'm not moving fast enough. I feel like I need to do these things. And he's like, dude, a year, 2 years now. He's like, it's nothing. He's like, when you're my age, you're not even remember it. The honest truth of the matter is that I really desperately wanted to prove that I could do it on my own.
I posit something, and listen, I've not had kids either. But what would happen if you removed both questions?
Oh, just like, I'll just take it as it is. Well, I'll say it's I almost want to say it's impossible for me.
Because of control. You like to be able to control your outcome.
I want to know what I'm doing. I want to know where I ask what do I want to have happen so that I can align all of my life to try and make that happen. And so if it's like, and even the question of like, what is a successful child is it a child who's happy? Mm-hmm. Many people would say, I just want my kid to be happy. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. Is it my child makes the maximum impact on society? Different upbringing. Mm. And like the trades that we make at the beginning, I probably won't be able to have a kid who has both, or at least the degree to which I can steer.
So I have 3 other siblings. I'm the youngest of 4.
Yeah.
And one could theoretically say my parents were a constant. The environment to some degree was a constant. There were slight changes. Mm-hmm. Us 4. Mm-hmm. You've got me, the youngest, this crazy like entrepreneur, didn't go to university, blah, blah, blah. Got Jason, super genius at school, rewrote the textbooks to make them smarter, works in this business, now my business, mathly, rewrote on the front of the newspapers. Kevin, smarter than all of us, savant level genius, said to me when he was younger that he could learn any language in 4 weeks fluently. If you gave number 1 in the world in RuneScape at one point, people would watch him online play, super genius, decided he doesn't want to go into the world of work. And then my sister, who, I think she qualified as a lawyer, and she's worked in hospitality and stuff. All of us extremely different. Mm-hmm. My parents were a constant, the environment was a constant. I say all this to say that maybe just like running experiments as we do in business, maybe like the job, and Jeff Bezos talks a lot about this, is to like stay out of the business of the output and focus purely on the input. Because some of the questions you were saying there were like, what do I want them to accomplish? Are they happy? These are all outputs.
Yeah. No, for sure.
The other thing that I notice when I interview executives, I always ask them, tell me about your kids. Yeah. And they tell me about the kids. And I go, are any of them the same? I always ask the same question. And they go, no. Yeah. We've got this one who won't stop bouncing off the walls. This one that's an empath and is like super shy. Yeah. Did you do anything different? No. So like, I think you'll almost probably be guaranteed to miss expectations and be let down if you get involved in the output.
Yeah. So, but if we had to compare 2 companies, let's say we have company A and company B. All right. We got company A and company B. They both are selling 100, new widgets a year. Okay. Let's say company B loses all of the 100, but they want to double because it's an entrepreneur. He's like, I got to grow. And so he sells 200 people year 2. Well, then let's say he's got $2 million in revenue and he's got $1 million in revenue here. And let's say year 3, he sells 300 units. He lost all 200 again because he has no stickiness. And so he makes $3 million. Okay, cool. Now, let's say this company A sells 100 year 1. They make $1 million. They keep all 100 customers. Okay. But let's say that company keeps the same number of people they're selling new. So 100 new customers come in this year, but they keep their old 100. So now they also have 200 customers and do $2 million. And then year 3, they keep their same 100 and then the 100 from year 2. So now they have 300 total customers because they got 100 new and they have 3 million. So both of these businesses on paper, your entrepreneur friend comes to you and says, hey, I've got a $3 million business and I've got a $3 million business. Which one do you invest in?
Mm-hmm. To be able to think about problems. Mm-hmm. What's your practice?
I'll attack this from 2 different angles. So first is, I think outsourcing thinking to AI as of right now is still a really bad decision. It's like, I think anybody who's used AI for any period of time knows that you can get it to agree to anything. And that's frightening when it comes to making decisions. And so every time I'm like, I think it's gotten a little better. I'll just give it a really obvious decision to make. I'll go, okay, let's open up Claude, let's open up OpenAI, let's open all of them up, and I'll ask the same question to all three, and they're just all over the place. And so I'm like, okay, this is still back to my judgment, right? Number two is that if you do delegate your decision-making to it, you get dumber. Now, there's all this research, I'm sure you've had people on the podcast who talked about it, and it's like, I for sure, this is the best asset I've got for now, so I want to keep it as sharp as I can. Do not delegate the hardest work the hardest thinking work you have, because you will just get so weak so fast.
A new idea that sprung into my mind over the last, I'd say 3 to 4 months that I've kind of been chewing with is this idea of what happens when you go long. So long-term thinking and how you build differently today if you just extend the time horizon, and then how you can beat competition just by instead of thinking in terms of, okay, founders, they always think in terms of 5 years and then exit. But what happens if you think in terms of 50 years? What are the different decisions you make in terms of the foundational blocks? And this is why I have these blocks, because I saw you do something on YouTube with some blocks before. Could you explain this idea of sort of long-term thinking in terms of foundations?
We do this exercise in person with entrepreneurs because I think it's so powerful, which is if I were to say, hey, build me the tallest tower using a series of blocks. If I say you have 5 seconds, you're right here, right? And that's all you got. And you're like, oh, it's time, hands off. If I said, okay, now let's assume we had a little bit more blocks than I could build in 5 seconds. And I said, okay, what if I said you had 5 minutes? Would you build it differently? What if I said you had 5 days? What if I said you had 5 years?
And you have unlimited blocks.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what happens is the foundation completely changes based on the height of the building because of the time horizon you're thinking in.
Yeah.
I had a mentor tell me this a long time ago, and it really stuck with me, which is the fastest way to build a $10 million business is not the fastest way to build a $100 million business. And the fastest way to build $1 million business is not the fastest way to build a $10 million business. You could probably build a one-person agency to $1 million a year pretty quick.
One client.
Right. Yeah. It's just you could do it really quickly. Getting to 100 though, you think about it differently. You would, and so I think to your point, one of the still outstanding competitive advantages that you can have as an entrepreneur from a thinking perspective is just thinking longer.
Yeah, it's really been front of mind to me. It's funny because when I started thinking about, do you know why it is? It's because I told myself in this season of life that I was going to do the business that I'm running now, which is our holding company called Steven.com, forever. And I immediately noticed that I made a different set of decisions. I started thinking about the factory, I called it, which is, Elon's example of it's building a prototype is easy, building the factory that builds the cars is 50x harder. I started obsessing over the factory, which in part in this analogy could also be seen as the foundations that we lay to make this durable over the long term. And then speaking of Elon, I look at the decisions he made with both SpaceX, which I'm an investor in, and Tesla, where he was like, I could have bought the batteries from Ford, but I'm going to make a completely new battery from scratch. I could have used other people's electricity chargers, but I'm going to build the entire charging network across the United States from scratch. And this is someone who's thinking long term. And what happens then is they have the most durable moat 7 years from now. And that becomes the value of the business. And actually, it was all a byproduct of just thinking over a longer time horizon. Entrepreneurs and startup founders, as you know, we rush to get the exit, raise as much money as we can.
Market fit, yeah.
And it looks like you're in an unstable building there.
Yeah.
It looks like that.
Strong wind, right? Right.
I could blow that over.
Even during the exit process, if it's a fast, company, it's you're kind of just please stay.
Yes.
Just everything stay fine. No one leave. No big accounts go away. You're just holding your breath for 6 months and being please just go through. And then if it goes down to this for a week or two, and they're like, hey, why are the billables down? You're like, no, it's a momentary blip. It was expected. It was actually in our. Did I not send you the updated forecast? It's a whole thing. And I'll do it with the drawing because it might be a little bit easier. But if you were to build 100-story building, you'd have to dig way deeper. You'd have to have you build with different materials going up. And so there's 100 decisions that get made that if you're doing 100 stories versus one, you choose differently. And so where it gets really tough is that people, they want to have it all. And so they say, I want to have the speed of building a 1-story building. But then they get to 1 story and say, well, actually, I want to have a 10-story building. But the foundation wasn't right. And so this is where entrepreneurs they'll do this, they'll skyrocket here, and then they plateau. And then sometimes, unfortunately, the correct step is that you have to take 2 steps back, rebuild the foundation, and then it goes up again. And so I think, to your point, focus and patience are the 2 enduring competitive advantages because they're so anti-human.
Yeah, so anti-human, so anti-Instagram. I've got no announcement to make this month because I'm doing boring shit, like hiring.
Like Bezos,
Yeah.
like the decision, I still think about this, like the decision that he made that he was just like, I'm going to have a logistics company be my competitive moat. He started as a bookstore online, and to go from there to like, no, we're going to own the trucks and the warehouses and be better at warehouse and delivery than anyone else. That's what we're going to do with our online internet business. But who can unseat Amazon right now? Really tough.
What's interesting as well is that particular moment there where the entrepreneur hits this, they come to people like me and you in the street and they say that they can't get past here, bottleneck.
Yeah.
What is it that they should have done? So many entrepreneurs come up to me, they might hit, 500K revenue, $1 million revenue, and they come up to me and they go, I don't know what to do. How do I get to 10 million from here?
Yeah.
And I think in part what you're saying is they should have made a decision earlier on to build a slightly different type of company from zero.
I'll say what the $1 million business owner is missing when they're trying to get to 10 is what they would have done differently is they would have stayed longer in the product market fit phase or trying to make sure that the customers who come in keep wanting to spend money with them, which they either do periodically. So like if you buy a soda that you like, you keep buying it. It's not like you're on a subscription, but you just buy it regularly. On the other hand, there's subscription revenue, which is truly recurring, like your Netflix subscription, whatever. But they know that when that customer comes in contact with the business, they're going to stay and that money's going to keep going, which is what allows it to stack. And so if we think at the most basic level, if every time you get a customer, they never left, then the business will do nothing but grow. It will either stay the same or it will grow. Whenever you get a new customer, it just keeps growing. And the difficulty of the $1 million entrepreneur is that getting to $1 million you can do really quickly, or 10. And I know that the world is like, I can't believe that. I promise you can do it if you just learn enough skills. But that can happen really quickly because it just doesn't take a lot of moving parts to make it happen. Getting to 100 or getting to $1 billion in revenue, I haven't gone to $1 billion yet, but I feel confident I know what we need to do. The $1 million entrepreneur is trying to fit $1 billion of new sales in 1 year. And that's the problem, is that at the end of next year, because all the customers they signed up to make their $1 million are gone because they aren't good enough, they have to go back to the market and sell and get another $1 million of customers. So they think, if I want to get to $2 million a year, I have to go sell twice as many customers, which is true. Are you making more money? Just the very simple, are you making more money now? And even though you're token maxing and spending all this money on tokens, but like, are you making more money? And I had a business I looked at the other day. They had 11 VAs that were doing, I can't remember, some sort of like data cleaning work.
VAs.
Yeah, virtual assistants. So low skilled labor overseas that was doing work. And I think it was something in the neighborhood of like $11,000 a month is what they were paying for these 11 VAs. And they were doing a good job and it all worked. And they then spent $350,000 to try and create an AI system that would replace what these 11 virtual assistants were doing. But that means they spent 3+ years of costs on what these 11 virtual assistants were doing. And it wasn't even the constraint of the business. It was just a process they could automate, not that they should automate it, because it's not the thing that's limiting their growth.
But you make no promise or guarantee as where that would lead you in your life.
No, that's, to me, like, that's beyond my scope.
Fine.
Like, I know, yeah. And so I enjoy the topic of the happiness stuff because I love amorphous topics. But the conclusion that I started with when you asked about the Tony thing was, it is my worldview, which could be wrong, that human beings, our internal feelings are like the weather. There's sunny days and there's rainy days and there's rainy seasons and there's sunny seasons, and we go through them all. And even if things get better, our baseline adjusts so that, yet again, because like if we think about a year, I actually give this example to my sales team. So we think about this as a year and we have all the days of the year. Half the days are going to be above average and half the days are going to be below average. And every month you're going to have a bottom 10% day 3 times because you have 36 days per year that are going to be bottom 10% days for no reason, purely because law of large numbers. And you're also going to have 3 days per month, which is almost 1 a week. That's going to be a top 10% day of the whole year. Pretty impressive, but it's 1 a week, almost, right? And so I think about this variability a lot. Seeing you at the office at 4 a.m. every day, when you don't need to do this at all, the consistency of it is like, I don't see that in the content. I mean, I see the output of that. And one of the things with consistency is that you need to be consistent in order to witness consistency. Like you can't even observe, even if I did a time lapse that takes 10 seconds of me doing it, you still don't perceive it. So there's the consistency piece. And I think the other one with regards to the long-term component is patience.
Yeah.
Also to fair, focus, because Sharon, my partner, says this. He says, people only see the choices you made, not the options you had. And so you can't really witness focus. You just see winning. And so to the same degree with patience, again, you only see the win. Like if you look at a marathon, people are there at the beginning, they're there at the end. No one's here in the middle.
Yeah.
Because it's the only fun part. The content of a marathon would be the intro and the exit. Like you'd literally make it into a clip that's 30 seconds. It'd be like, hurrah, yay. And then maybe a couple mile markers. And it's like, wait, we compressed this. What a bargain. Great return on time. You can't really witness patience unless you've literally followed it from the beginning, which of course you'll have your OG people who are with you in the beginning of Diary of a CEO, and they've seen the patience start to play out. But it's one of the things that like, one of the ultimate gifts that I would hope, and the equal opposite of this is Steve Wynn, I think, talked about how the best thing in the world is that someone comes their first time to one of his casinos, bets big and wins. It's the best thing ever. The worst thing that can happen is that the first time they come, they lose their money because then they never gamble again. And so it's like he wants that big reinforcing event up front because then you can become a gambling addict. He had a $46 million exit. I don't know if I would attract the number of entrepreneurs that we do now. But now that we do 250 plus schools, $1 billion plus company, it's like I have credibility that the YouTube, the content, right, is not like I still do business. You know what I mean? We have chains of brick and mortar that we're involved in. I just don't talk about it because it's not relevant for most people.
Let's look at the opposite then as well, just to show people what the opposite of hard and scarce or of this approach is. What types of content should we all kind of stay away from now?
So I think commoditized tips and tricks, when you have again, like proof is in the pudding. Reality is the moat. It's basically the opposite of that. So if you are posing, if you are pretending, if you have no proof that you are good at this thing, and again, this is on the education side, then there's I call it the big Vegas wispy. Why should I listen to you? Right? Why should I listen to you? And if you can't answer that question for, I'll say a prospect, prospective customer, within the first like couple of seconds, they'll just listen to somebody else. Because the reason that credibility matters so much is that it's actually lower effort to consume information from somebody who's an authority. And so if I'm listening to somebody who doesn't have proof and I'm listening to investing advice, I have to really think like, is this true? Does this make sense? If I'm listening to Warren Buffett, I don't have to think that. I'm like, I'm sure he's right. Now, when someone's like, how do I get into this? You do what no one else can do. Well, if you are getting in, then document the proof of effort. So you can have proof of outcome, just like what we do. Right? What you do. But then when you're starting, there's proof of effort. Jimmy's first viral video is him counting to like 1 million. It's proof of effort. When you have nothing else, you have time, you have work. If you want to say, hey, I want to get into sales stuff, it's like record your entire day of you selling. And then when you overcome something that's really good, that's real life with real stakes, clip the moment, right? And show yourself. It's like, I took 22 calls today. Let me tell you the best moment. I did a 12-hour day. In 3 minutes, I'll give you the best moments. It's like people want a deal. And so I think about that as a compression of time. And the reason that people listen to the people who are further ahead, who've done all these things, is because we can compress time. We say, hey, you could try and figure this out on your own. But if I can compress 14 years of business advice into 37 minutes, that's a good deal. The second is that you are able to practice the unscalable thing.
Yeah.
And then you can figure out, how do I take the scarce value? Okay, this is not scalable. Fine, let's just say it's not scalable. Okay, are there elements of this that are scalable that I now know because I've done it rather than because I thought about it? Because your thought experiments, and I'd say for myself too, are pretty terrible. Like our ability to predict the future is pretty god awful. And so we think we know what it's going to be like, and we usually have no idea. And so it's like, go do it. You'll collect way richer data that no one else has done because it was unscalable. And then you can actually create something that's more scalable, that is unique because you actually went through it. And this is getting a little bit more business hatty, but from a branding perspective, saying, hey, I have a handful of clients that pay me $2,000 a month to do this premium thing. For those of you who can't afford that, I now have this thing. You've already anchored high. They see you as the person on the hill because you deal with these unscalable, my private clients. And then you can have, like you look at the Tesla model of start with the Roadster, and then you have the Model S, and then you work your way down to the masses.
Well, if I was to forensically analyze your business now. And then I brought in Alex, who started that business on day one. And I go, look at how unscalable all this stuff is that he's accomplished. I actually would make the case from what you were just saying that actually the essence of value creation in business is solving problems that didn't look scalable. I was just thinking about even the Diary of a CEO process here from the minute you leave. Like, so right now, the team in there that are doing the testing, they're actually making you a book as we speak. They took photos of us while we were sat here. And when this interview ends, they're going to walk in and hand me the book. I'm going to sign it and pass it to you. That book is going to contain quotes from fans that loved our last conversation. They're currently printing them off on Polaroids. They're writing in it. When this conversation's done, we're going to test your name 300 times using ads to see how to introduce you. I know Alex Hormozi is going to win because you're a big name now. But you think about when we started the podcast, imagine me there on GarageBand. Yeah. with a $100 mic.
That's not scalable.
It's not scalable.
I use this frame a lot, which is that you are trying to solve tomorrow's problems with today's resources. And it's a fallacy. It's ridiculous. You don't have the money, you don't have the skill, you don't have the connections, you don't have the resources, you don't have the experience and the track record. But future you will. But the hard part is future is a stranger. And so I think we make a lot of this content to try and approximate as closely as possible to just pull the first step for someone to take to say, believe, like, you will figure it out. Like, as long as you do not quit, you'll win. Like, you just have to not stop. That's basically it. You just have to not stop. As long as you get feedback and you take the feedback and you improve and you do that on a long enough time horizon, you win.